Everyone, myself Dr. S. Mohammed Nazeer. In this class, I am going to teach you microeconomics. In microeconomics, distribution, under distribution, modern theory of distribution, or demand and supply theory of distribution. In our previous class, I taught you marginal productivity theory of distribution. What is distribution? Distributing the national income among the factors of productions, land, labor, capital, organization. So, based on the marginal productivity theory of distribution, the factor price is determined by marginal productivity of that factor. Okay, that is the concept of the theory. But the theory is based on some unrealistic assumptions. Because of that, this theory propounded. Another important thing, the marginal productivity theory is only taken into consideration the demand side. They ignored the supply side. Here, both the demand and the supply of labor factor, both demand and the supply of factors are taken into account. Let's see this modern theory of distribution in detail. Before that, what are the defective or unsatisfactory of the marginal productivity of theory? Let's see the reasons. Number one, the marginal productivity theory does not explain how the factor price is determined. It does not explain how the factor price is determined. It simply explains how many factors of production are employed by an employer at a given price level in order to maximize his profit. It is the first defect of the marginal productivity theory of distribution. The second defect, the marginal productivity theory does not explain the method of pricing, but it illustrates the equilibrium of the firm in the factor market. This is the second defective. The third defective, the marginal productivity theory considers the demand side only. It ignores the supply side. This is the third defective. The fourth defective, the marginal productivity of theory of distribution is based upon unrealistic assumptions. Therefore, it has been criticized severely. To overcome this criticism, modern theory of distribution was propounded. The theory of distribution is also called demand and supply theory. Let's see this theory. The modern theory of distribution is based on the principles of similar to the product pricing. The principles of similar to the product pricing. In the product, how we are fixing the price? Based on demand and supply of the product, we are fixing the price. Like the price of the product, the prices of factor of production are also determined by the demand and supply of that particular factor. According to Marshall and Hicks, the price of factor is determined by both the demand and the supply of the factor. But it would be equals to marginal revenue product of that factor. Okay, so demand and the supply determine the factor price. That price must be equals to the marginal productivity of that factor. Okay, there are two sides, demand side and supply side. Let's see one by one. Demand for factors. The demand for factors of production is not a direct demand. It is a derived or indirect demand. It means the demand for factor of production depends upon demand for goods and services. That is, if the demand for goods and services increase, the demand for the factors which are used in production will also increase. Okay, and vice versa, opposite. The demand for factor also depends upon the productivity. There is a demand price for factors. It depends upon the marginal productivity, that is to say, the marginal revenue product. The higher the productivity of the factor, the greater the demand and the price will be higher. Okay, this is the demand side. Now, supply of factor. The supply of factor refers to number of factors offers themselves for employment at different prices. For example, the supply of labor depends upon the size and the composition of population. Its occupational and geographical distribution, labor efficiency, cost of production and trading and expected income, etc. We can also see if the price of factor increases, the supply will also increase. Now see the equilibrium of demand and supply. This can be explained with the help of diagram. In this diagram, X-axis represents the demand for factors and the supply of factors. And Y-axis represents the price. DD is the demand curve and SS is the supply curve. Both these curves intersect at each other at point E. This is the equilibrium point. That is only at the price is OP. This is the equilibrium price. The price OP is determined. The price of the factor cannot be determined at a higher than or lower than OP price. For example, the price of the factor cannot be fixed at OP1. The quantity supplied is P1H of the factor is greater than the quantity demanded P1G. Actually, the quantity demanded is P1G, but the quantity supplied of factor is P1H. This is called excess supply. So this excess supply, the entrepreneur will reduce the price of factor to P1 to P. Okay. And similarly, the price cannot be fixed at OP2 because at price OP2, the quantity demanded is P2 or. Okay, P2 or is greater than quantity supplied. So the supply is P2Q, the demand is P2R. So this is called excess demand. Here excess supply, here excess demand. So entrepreneur will increase the price of factor from P2 to P1. Okay. So the factors, the price is determined by both demand for labor and the supply of labor. At the same time, the price is equals to marginal productivity of that factor.